Hello fellow gamers, I'm Kairos Time and I'm a developer at Antihero Studios. We're an indie startup game studio and our #1 goal is to make games worth sharing. In this video, I want to share how one single player broke one of our playtests and what we learned from the experience. And you're probably thinking like, maybe this player found some sort of bug or a glitch that they abused. It's actually far more interesting than that. And I think what's actually funniest and most unexpected is what the Antihero team did in response. But before I can explain that, I have to explain a couple of core aspects about the first game we're making, which is called Misfits. Misfits is a top-down shooter built for mobile, and I'm gonna show you guys some gameplay in this video. Just keep in mind that everything you see here is very early in development and is a work in progress, so very likely to change as we go and update things. Now, Misfits is not your typical player versus player game where each match has a very clearly defined winner and a clearly defined loser. It is a social extraction game. Something that's really important about our game is that there doesn't have to be a loser in order for there to also be a winner. You don't actually have to kill other players in order to win. You can strictly gather loot from mobs and bosses and extract without turning on any other players at all. Everyone can win and nobody has to lose in this type of game. And part of the fun of the game is actually to play socially and work together in order to take down bosses that are nearly impossible to kill by yourself by design. But obviously, collaborating with players isn't always what happens. Part of the excitement of the game is that if you do take out an enemy player, they will drop all of their loot on the ground for you to pick up. So the most efficient way to play is to actually spend very little time killing mobs and bosses and instead focus strictly on hunting other players who have done the gathering for you. And some would even argue that that is the most fun way to play the game as well. But focusing solely on hunting other players is not the most efficient way to play for most players, because playing aggressively means that you're going to make enemies with other players and those players are likely to fight back. And if they are better than you or you are caught in an unlucky situation, they will kill you and they will take your gear, which will set your progress back a bit. Every death is highly punishing, and in a game where you don't have to kill others and can instead socially work with others for everyone's benefit, making enemies is risky. But what if it wasn't risky? What if there was a player that was so good at the game that nobody else could take them out, and that seeing them pop up on the map pretty much meant instant death for you? That is exactly how one player broke our playtest. Introducing the final boss of Misfits, Egasker. If you've played Misfits and you've seen Egasker in game, chances are you didn't survive. And if you did, it's probably because Egasker let you. Trust me on this. Sometime last year, we actually had a fairly small playtest, and our goal of this playtest was to gather feedback on various systems within the game, specifically how gear progression felt. I've talked about this in the past, but we want to build a game with the community, and that means involving the community way earlier than most developers do, so that we can apply their feedback along the entire process, rather than having to go back and change new or old features based off of new feedback, right? So these play tests that we do are very, very important. And in order for us to encourage players to play long enough to give us the feedback that we needed, we wanted to give some of them a little bit of a challenge. The goal that we gave them was to get the most relics by the end of the play test. And this was actually before I joined the team, but I'm pretty sure that the winners were actually awarded some Antihero merch, like this crazy comfy sweatshirt, which I don't know that this is available yet. This is not a sales pitch, but it's crazy comfy and I love it. Anyway, here's what happened. The playtest dropped. Egeskr started racking up the kills and he was relentless. I remember sending him a team up request during the playtest, which he promptly ignored and responded by hunting me down, killing me, and taking my gear and relics instead. Single-handedly, he ended up destroying our day 1 retention rates for our players because we only had enough players to fill maybe 2 lobbies throughout most of the day. So at any given time, half of the players could be facing up against him with no chance of survival because he'd do the most effective strat available. Camp the extraction point and kill everyone before they could extract. So Everybody's basically out there gathering resources, gathering gear, gathering relics, and then they would bring it to the extraction point where he would kill them and take it all. This was early enough in the game's development that we didn't have a matchmaking system, so brand new players were being obliterated by an experienced veteran in our game super early on. And this is a little bit different now, but back then, the only way that you progressed was extracting. If you didn't extract because you died, that would mean you didn't progress at all. And dying every time meant that you literally could not progress. And the whole goal of our playtest was to gather feedback on the game's progression system, which was impossible for most players to experience because they just die. So instead of quality feedback like we were hoping to get, we got a ton of feedback regarding how punishing the game was and how much it sucked to die to Egasker. And there was lots of complaints. And honestly, all of that was very fair because the game was indeed very punishing to most players, except for Egasker. It was punishing to everyone except for him. So we reached out to Egasker and we said, hey man, could you take this easy? And he said, yeah, I'll try. And I don't know if he did try. It felt like he didn't. And honestly, I don't even blame him. Not at all. We had a competition going on with, I believe there were real prizes on the line and he wanted to be number one in the playtest. So of course he's going to continue hunting players and taking their gear and their relics because that is the most efficient way for him to accomplish his goal of being number one in the playtest. And in response to this, we've actually done some interesting things to try and improve the game and we plan on doing even more. But this is the funniest thing that the Antihero team did. And I say the Antihero team, I'm allowed to call this the funniest because I hadn't joined the team officially yet. The devs essentially said, you know what? If he won't stop because we asked him to, let's beat him at his own game. Let's take down Egasker ourselves. And that's how Operation Egeskr Takedown began. And I have actual footage of it, which is fun. Just keep in mind that this was from a long time ago and tons of stuff has changed. But let's show you. This is Operation Egeskr Takedown. Now it starts off with 4 of the game devs teaming up together, finding each other, hiding in a bush, trying to hunt Egasker down. The fight starts when they approach Egasker, who's teamed up with Koza. Okay, lots of names here. You don't need to remember all the names, but what you need to realize here is it doesn't take long before one of the devs get knocked down. And in our game, you have to get knocked down and then finish off. And while trying to revive one of the teammates, a second developer gets knocked down. Now we don't see it on camera, but while Frank was focusing on taking Egasker's teammate out, one of the devs gets taken out. So the devs are down 1 player, but Egasker also lost his teammate in the process. So it's 3 devs now against 1 Egasker and a random third-party player named Kairos Time. And let me tell you, this Kairos Time is the true hero of chaos in this story. And it wasn't me actually. To this day, we don't actually know who they were. This Kairos Time is a fake Kairos. He was an imposter pretending to be me. But what's important here is that everyone thought that it was me, but it wasn't. It was actually this Kairos Time who took out the first dev while Egasker retreated to heal up. And this Kairos Time imposter took out a second dev and then a third dev. So now the dev team, which started with 4 players, was down to just 1 solo player. Now Frank, the last remaining developer, sent a team up invite to fake Kairos, who immediately ignored it and instead decided to team up with Egasker. This is where things get interesting. Egasker's original teammate, Koza, respawned and came back to the fight. And Egasker decided to end his team up with the fake Kairos so that he could reteam with Koza. But dissolving a team in Misfits takes some time, and there's actually a warning sent to the other player on the team. So by the time the team was dissolved, Koza was knocked down, and the fake Kairos was prepared for Egasker to stab him in the back. So as soon as their team dissolved, fake Kairos returned fire and knocked Egasker down. And with Egasker downed, Frank, the final remaining developer, landed the finishing blow and ended Egasker's rampage, spreading legendary and mythic gear all over the floor. Now, I wasn't there for this, but apparently triumphant cheers could be heard throughout the Antihero office, and it wasn't until reviewing the footage later that they realized that they didn't even take out Egasker. And without fake Kairos, they probably would have failed in their mission. Now, unfortunately, this story does have a sad ending because Egasker came back and exacted revenge against the fake Kairos while the devs extracted with Egasker's gear. What's really funny about this story is that this wasn't even the first time the developer team tried to form like a Black Ops mission to take Egasker out. This was just one of the first times that they were successful. Now, I do want to share some of our learnings from this experience, but before I do that, I do want to praise Egasker. In fact, he's awesome. He played how he wanted to play and how the game allowed him to play, and honestly, encouraged him to play. That's not his fault. That's on us to make sure that there is a game and systems put in place so that it feels fair to new players, right? We set up a competition which further drove his desire to hunt other players. And that's actually a reason why we decided not to have like a leaderboard in our last playtest, because we wanted it to be a little bit more social and a little bit more collaborative rather than trying to force people to feel like they had to play efficiently and take other players out. Also, I want to say that we have been incredibly thankful to Egasker for his dedication to the game. He has shared a ton of feedback on the game, and his feedback has been extremely powerful because of he just has such a good grasp of the game's inner workings. His insights have helped us to balance our characters in a big way, and he's like always finding the most OP abilities within all of our characters. So like him sharing that to us has helped us a lot, and it has helped to actually balance the game. I just can't stress how helpful his insights have been. We really appreciate his dedication as a player and also as a hardcore player and as a super valued creator within our creator program. In our last playtest, he actually made a video breaking down the best upgrades to pick on all the skill trees for all of our Misfits. I'm going to link it right here. It was super helpful for me to get better at the game, and I'm sure he's going to continue making awesome videos like that for future playtests. So if you want to get better at the game, make sure you go check this video out, subscribe to him, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss when he gives you the best tips, which you're going to need. I'm going to need them because I need to be able to hold my own against him. Okay, now let's quickly talk about the learnings from this experience. In fact, our biggest priority for our next playtest is to make an actual like first-time user experience, or like a tutorial. Like, we want to improve the new player experience in a very big way. And we've actually considered a lot of ways to further improve things for new players. Like I said, an actual tutorial showing the basics of the game. We've considered bot matches to give some players some experience before going off against players or other real people. Improving matchmaking with playtests that includes more players so that skill is more heavily considered when you enter a match. We've actually considered more interesting and unique things like a morality system that clearly labels players who frequently kill players as like PKers, right? So that if you see somebody, you can see maybe like, I don't know, something that they do like this in other games is they add like a skull to the name. And maybe if you see a skull next to somebody's name, you know, oh, I got to be extra careful here, or I've got to try and run away. There's a lot of different things that we've considered. And I'm not saying that any or all of those will actually be implemented in future playtests. It's just things we're thinking about. We will be implementing some of them, but like which ones? We'll have to wait and see. But I want to know if you have any ideas on how the new user experience could be improved for our next playtest. So if you have played Misfits in the past and you have ideas, I want you to put a comment in the comment section below with hashtag feedback in it so that it's really easy for me to find your ideas. Also, make sure you subscribe for future videos like this where I share our journey and what it's like to make a game with the community. Here's actually a video sharing the first thing that I learned as a brand new game developer. And here is a video from Egeskr showing the best builds for each character in the game. I highly recommend watching it because he truly is the final boss of Misfits.